Welcome back. So here we are. We are on the 8th day of our yearly Nach reading plan. And the difficult portions tend to be the Psalms. Proverbs too, but I think Psalms we should prioritize. So today's reading from the Psalms is Psalm chapter 6. All right, so I'm going to be working through that with you. So far we've posted all the Psalms portions up here. So if you missed one, maybe you want to chime in. And I'm just showing you from a Koren presentation Tanakh. It's a real nice big font. That's why I like it. And I think this is nice. You guys can kind of, whatever your level of Hebrew is, you should be able to pick up something from these teachings, all right? So welcome everybody who's here. I know we don't have too many. I didn't really promote this too much before starting, but let's just see. Maybe some people will come in as we go, all right? At least it'll be out there for those who want to see it later. All right, so here we have the big Vav. So that's telling you Psalm 6, right? It's chapter 6. And we have the Aleph and the Beit. So that means that this line has all of verse 1 and either all of verse 2 or at least part of verse 2. That's what that means, right? So you can see verse 1 starts here. And then we have the Sof Pasuk, the end of verse marker. And then we're going to have verse 2 picking up right there. By the way, can you guys hear me over there? Okay, over there in the stream? Do I need it? Maybe I should turn up my gain just a bit. Let's see. Hopefully that sounds all right to you guys. I don't have a fan on right now, so it might be okay to have the gain kind of high like that. All right, so let's get started. Lamnatseach bin ginot al hashminit. Lamnatsech is for conductor, right? The one who's doing the musical stuff. Bin ginot with neginot, right? So negina is music, right? With music, like a nigun in today, the Hasidim might sing a nigun. Al, upon, ha-sheminit. Now, literally, this means upon the 8th. Okay, great. Thanks for the feedback, Brenda. Upon the 8th, right? From Shemona, meaning 8. Shemini, the 8th. Sheminit, also 8th, okay? So, this is some kind of musical terminology. And the Septuagint and the Vulgate, the Vulgate says it's ad octava, right? So the idea is that this is probably giving some indication about which octave to play on, right? We see this also later on in 2nd Chronicles somewhere, the same terminology used to mean like the bass octave, all right? So that's that. This probably was added to the psalm later, like as little notations above how they were to perform it, how the Levites would perform it. And then we get to the normal terminology for the psalm proper, which is mizmor, a psalm, the David of David, all right? And this is a psalm about asking for healing from a wasting illness, right? An illness in which the psalmist is wasting away. It's a wasting disease, right? All right. So here we are. This is now verse, oh, there's the bait. You can see it over in the column. Let me get my camera aligned a bit better. Okay. Bait. And it says, Adonai al be'apecha. Oh, Adonai. Al means don't. It's a softer way to say don't. It's not lo. Lo is like a command, right? Al is softer. Like don't. Like please don't. Be, in, off. I know it says op, but usually it would be off. Means nostril, right? So that's anger or wrath. Be'apecha. The cha means your. So al be'apecha. Please not in your wrath. Tochicheni, don't correct me, don't rebuke me, right? The ni is me, right? Tוכיח is to rebuke. So for example, we have this commandment that if your brother sins, it says, Yocheach tochiach et achicha, ve'al tamud al damo. You shall indeed correct, rebuke your brother, and do not stand on his blood. So quite a powerful exhortation that we are supposed to rebuke our brothers, our sisters, when they're doing something wrong. That doesn't mean to embarrass them publicly. No. The proper derech eretz is privately. We call them aside privately, and we correct them. And we see an example of this with Priscilla and Aquila. Yes, streaming, Christopher. Let's see, is there an issue? Yep. Let me check, make sure everything's okay. Yes. Okay. Do you see the stream, Christopher? Are you guys there? Okay, Brenda said I sound good, so that means they must be hearing. Yeah, not sure what's up on Christopher's side. Sorry, buddy. You'll get in when you'll get in. All right? Oh, look, there's a little ant that got on the Bible while I had it open. He's over in the crevice. I'll have to remember to blow him off later. All right, so, do not in your wrath, tochicheni, chastise me. Ve'al, and do not, b'chamatcha. So, chema is the word here. It usually ends in a hey. Chema. Chema means heat. Heat. So literally this says, Ve'al, and do not in cha is your chema, and in your heat, meaning anger, the normal word for anger. Ve'al b'chamatcha, and do not in your heat or in your anger, teyasarini, chastise me. All right? Okay, great. It's working for Christopher now. Good. Glad you're in, brother. All right, verse Gimel, verse 3. Choneni, Adonai ki umlalani. Choneni, have compassion on me. Right? Like the name Chana. Chana, her name means compassion or grace, something like this. This is the verb from that. Choneni, have pity, have compassion upon me. Oh Adonai. Ki, because or for, umlalani. Weak am I. I'm weak. Rafa'eni. So Rafa, you probably know the title of God as El Rafa. You guys know El Rafa? Oh, healing God. Right? Oh, healing God. So this is the verb from that. Rafa'eni means heal me. Okay, so we have Choneni Adonai ki umlal ani. Rafa'eni Adonai ki nivhalu atzamai. So heal me, O Adonai, ki for nivhalu. This is a niphal, so it's a passive from bahal. Bahal is to be scared, like to be shaken, right? To be frightened. So the thing that's frightened is coming next. The noon makes it passive, right? So if it said bahalu, it would mean they frightened, right? But nivhalu means they are frightened. What's frightened? Atzamai. Etzem is a bone. So atzamai, I at the end means my bones. Okay, if it said atzmi, that would mean my bone is frightened. Like you just got one bone. Maybe he's holding the shank bone or something, and it's scared. That would be atzmi, right? But it would say nifhal atzmi. But because it's nivhalu atzamai, the I instead of e means my plural, right? Just like if you want to say my Lord, speaking about a person, right? Yes, me Lord. You're like you're a feudal serf or something, and you say, me Lord told me to do this, right? Me Lord would be Adon is Lord, and then E, Adoni, my Lord, okay? But when you make it plural, my lords, if he's talking about all of his lords, all of his masters, say he's on a timeshare program, he's working for more than one lord, then he'd say, instead of Adoni, my Lord, he'd say Adonai, my lords, right? Just like we call God, we call him Adonai, my lords, plural. Well, I never heard anybody teaching about that, but that's what it is. That's literally what it is. All right. Christopher, I think you're a bit behind. Please drag the thing over to the right, Achi. Yeah. Horrified. Yeah, horrified it can mean. Yeah, nifalo can mean. Horrified. Yep. All right. So, atsamai, my bones. Nifalo, they are. Sure, horrified. You can go with that. Okay. Okay, verse 4. So you see the dalet over here. We got the dalet, right? V'nafshi nivhala me'od, and my life or my soul, nivhala, she is frightened me'od, exceedingly, right? And remember, the soul in Hebrew, it's not like this kind of ethereal thing that floats around or whatever, right? That's the English meaning of soul. In Hebrew, a nefesh is the life force of the person, right? And so what he's saying is, he thinks he's going to die, right? It's a poetic way of saying, I think I'm going to, you saying people going to die? Like Jar Jar Binks. I think I'm going to die. Nafshi, nivhala. She is scared. That's the ah at the end. That's a feminine ending because nefesh is a feminine. Me'od, exceedingly so. Ve'ata Adonai, but you, O Adonai, ad matai, until when? Until when? We have no verb. It kind of leaves us hanging there. Now we're going to get the poet's request with verse Hey, which is verse 5. Oops, I can't quite reach there, can I? Here we go, we'll go. Shuvah Adonai. Return, O Adonai. Chalitza nafshi. So then we have nefesh, nafshi here. We have nafshi again. That's a pretty nice connection there, right? You guys see it? And there's something that's happening here that's interesting. I want you to see. So, shuv is actually the way to tell Adonai to return, right? Shuvah, this is like an emphatic request, like please return, O Adonai. Chalitza, we have again the ah. It's not saying that Adonai is feminine. It's got that same emphatic K, right? Literally, chalatz, well, chiletz, this is a piel. You see the strong lamed? It means to tear out, right? Like in the yabum, the law of the yabum, right? If a man dies and his wife didn't have children, his brother is supposed to marry his wife, right? He takes her on as an additional wife so that his name shall not be wiped off from the earth, right? We have this Torah commandment. It's the command of the Yibum, right? But if the guy refuses, right? Maybe he's a jerk. He doesn't care about his brother's progeny, or he just can't stand the brother's wife. They never got along. Who knows, right? With in-laws, he can refuse, right? He can refuse. And there's a whole ceremony where it's called chalitza, and you still perform chalitza today, right? So anyway, but with chalitza, you take off the sandal, you take off the shoe, right? And it's like stripping off the shoe, right? And then there's all kinds of stuff, Some say she spits on him, some say she spits on the ground or on his shoe, or there's different ways that the ceremony is practiced. And then there's the whole thing like, such shall be done with a man who refuses to build his brother's house up, right? So it's a negative thing that he refuses. That's called chalitza, the stripping, and then of the shoe is what the stripping of the shoe. It's funny, in Middle East, there's all this stuff with shoes. Like, I remember in the Iraq War, everybody was so impressed that the Iraqis were hitting Saddam Hussein's statues with shoes. Look, it's such an insult in the Middle East. Here's the shoe. Right? So here we go. You take the shoe off. It's chalitza. So chalitza, literally, he's saying, oh, Adonai, that you would strip up nafshi, my soul. But really what he means is rescue me, right? It's poetic for rescue. We see this also used to pull out stones in Leviticus from a wall. It's chiletz. And also in the Psalm, just after this one, Psalm 7, we'll see tomorrow, it can mean to despoil, right? To spoil. All right. Continuing on. Feel free to comment over there. By the way, Christopher, I didn't mean anything like that you're behind. I just realized you came in late. You had some trouble, technical trouble, so you weren't with us where we're talking right now. So that's no problem, okay? Don't be offended, brother. All right. Brenda says, does the woman spit in the man's face? Yes. Yes. The one who refuses to marry her. Yeah, to take her on as an additional wife. Yep. Or on the shoe. There's different traditions about this. The sages aren't exactly clear what the procedure was, but the shoe is definitely stripped off. That's part of it, for some reason. Okay? Yeah, and because he's kind of a selfish jerk, right? He doesn't love his brother enough to want his brother to have offspring. Because some guys, they didn't want to do this, right? Because, one, they got to support another wife, right? Two, they have this issue of... You have to remember, in ancient Israel, it was a agricultural society, right? An agrarian society. And so having children equaled wealth, right? Why? The boys could do hard labor on the farm, right? They'd help out a lot with the farm, and the girls helped too, right? And the girls, you later could marry off, and you got a bride's price for them, a mechia for them, right? So it's easy just to look at things from the modern perspective, but we have to remember how things used to be, right? In that society... Yeah, people still love their children, of course, right? But it also was like a wealth thing. So some guys, they don't want to... Today, who wants to raise someone else's kids, right? People usually don't want to do this, right? And so it was kind of a similar thing. Sometimes the guy just be like, no, I don't want to marry her. Let somebody else redeem her, right? We saw this happening with Ruth, remember? The Moabitess, King David's ancestor. The kinsman redeemer who was in line didn't want to redeem her. And that's why Boaz was able to. He's later in line. He was able to redeem her. Oh, yeah, exactly. Wow, Holy Spirit moving. I was just, I didn't see what you wrote there, Christopher, but you're right on. Christopher wrote the same thing, maybe even before me, I'm not sure. Just as Naomi's relative gave his shoe to Boaz. Yeah, exactly. So Boaz can marry Ruth. That's right. So there's kind of like, first you go with the one who's it's kind of like the honor of inheriting something, right? You have someone who's on top of the line that goes down, right? So you might have like the eldest brother. He has the first claim of Yabom, right? Meaning taking her on as a wife, right? But you have to understand, the reason they might not want this is because the children, he has to raise them, he has to feed them and everything, but he doesn't get, it doesn't go towards his real estate, it goes towards her real estate, right? She's kind of building a thing for herself. She's different than the other wives. She's got like her own sort of settlement thing going on there, right? That counts as her late husband's estate, and that's going to pass down to her child, right? It's not going to go to his dynasty. And so you can see why sometimes people, they get greedy and they don't want to do this, they don't want to care about it, so yeah. This is very rarely done today, by the way. The practice of Yibum has pretty much faded out of existence. It's pretty much understood, okay, I got to do chalitza, people say, right? Like, I got to do the mitzvah of chalitza. It's kind of interesting. Instead of the positive commandment, now it's, I got to go strip the shoe and, all this stuff, because that's an option. There was that option. There wasn't a forced marriage here. And the woman could refuse also. But she didn't have to be spat in her face, right? Maybe the guy's such a pig that she's going to have to marry. And she's like, no, I don't think so. So she had a choice, halakhically. She did not have to do this. Brenda says maybe the current wife doesn't want to share her husband. Yeah, sure. There's lots of reasons that can happen. Although I think this is more of a modern Western ideal, right? Back in the day, you didn't really have this kind of, one of the wives doesn't want it, right? It's, again, agrarian society. People had very little income. It's oftentimes we look at even if we're just assuming that these husbands, they just were married once, right? Let's look at them. Most men only married one wife, even though sometimes the polygamy aspect of the Bible gets highlighted. Clearly, most people married one, right? It was mostly a monogamous culture, right? It's just people get into the kind of, oh wow, polygamy, and so they want to talk about that. But most families, even in ancient Israel, were monogamous, all right? And the issue usually was that of wealth, right? Cost. What did it cost, right? The guy had to, usually it was only a rich man who would do something like this, who would take on another wife or something because he could afford to, right? And in ancient Israel, because of warfare and other sorts of things, you often had a lower population of men than you had of women, right? So today, it might seem like something that a woman wouldn't want to do, right? Because women can work today. Women can support themselves. Her children from the late husband, or, say she just had daughters from the late husband, right? That wouldn't inherit the name. They're not going to starve, right? Because she doesn't have a man. At least in the Western world, and in many countries today, women can work, right? But we have to be careful when we look at the Bible, not to judge it too harshly. We have to understand the time period we're talking about, right? You have an agrarian society, more kids is more help, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes it was seen as a kindness to take on another wife, right? Especially if you see, for example, in the case of David when he married Abigail. Remember Abigail? Abigail was Naval's wife. Remember the fool who was trying to betray King David after David's men protected his sheep and all that stuff? And when he dies, we're told later that David married her, right? This was like, the rabbis explain this, that this was from David's perspective. Well, they do say she was really beautiful, but from his perspective, it was kind of like an act of charity, right? That she wouldn't have to be a widower, that she wouldn't have to, which, by the way, that doesn't mean like, it's not a stigma. It's the difficulty that's inherent with that, right? To have to try to make it as a single parent, et cetera, et cetera. So we just have to be careful in all these things that we don't try to squeeze the Bible into the modern framework, right? This is a long time ago when these things were practiced. The cultures were very different. Even Israeli culture today is very different than Israeli society was back then, right? So, but this isn't chalitza. This is different. This is rescue, okay? It's the same. It's from the same verbal root, but it's rescue, yeah? All right. So, chalitza nafshi, rescue my life. Save my life, right? Rescue my life. Snatch up my life. Hoshi'aini. This is from Yasha, from to save. Save me. Lema'an, for the sake of chazdecha. So the cha means yours, and it's chesed. Your chesed. So chesed we've talked about before. Probably one of the most important Hebrew words that most people have no idea about it. They might know one of the glosses. They think, okay, it means kindness, right? Like kindness. Or someone else may say it means acts of kindness when it's in the plural. Or others may say it means like charity or chesed, grace, right? Grace. The one that, over the years of studying this word and seeing it used in Scripture, I prefer to look at this primarily as familial loyalty, right? Or clan loyalty, you might say, like loyalty to your family, right? This is what David is saying. Because of your chesed, your loyalty to your family. Israel is your bechor, your firstborn, as you've said, right? We already had the Torah in this time when David's writing this. He understands how God feels about Israel, right? So, because of your loyalty to your family, please do this thing for me. You see? That later on gets kind of watered down into grace. But you understand this is a little bit different than grace, right? This isn't saving someone outside of your family. David is leaning on his relationship to Adonai as a son of Israel, right? Hey, Shalom Alec. Great, you came in. Wonderful, wonderful. Nice. Not too bad for a last-minute announce thing. All right, good. Oh, I hear cats fighting outside. Hopefully it's not coming through. Okay. Verse. We have. Oh no! What happened here? Hold on. Boom. Fix it. Verse. Vav. That's 6. Yeah, they're really yelling at each other. Ki ein b'mavet, for there is not in mavet. Who knows what mavet means? Mavet. Death. There is not in death. Hey, Shalom, Levi White. On my way to church, so shutting it off, but God bless all of you, and thank you, Rabbi, for choosing to present a study of the Word of God. You're very welcome. Check in with us every day. We're trying to do one of the readings from the Psalms every day, yeah? So, yeah, you're very welcome. And thanks for coming in. Give us a thumbs up if you like it, Levi, okay? All right. Ki ein b'mavet, for there is not in, literally it says the death. There's not in the death. Zichracha. Zecher is remembrance, your remembrance. And now we have the Hebrew parallelism. Bishol, in Sheol, in the grave. Mi yodelach. Yodeh is from yada. Yada means like to, okay, it's like to confess, but it's not confess like to confess your sins. It means like to confess God, right? It's a kind of praise. Just like the song talked about with a neguna, with nigunim, right? Musical, right? With musical instruments, that's a kind of praise. There's prostrating down, that's a kind of praise, right? In worship, with saying the words of the psalm, that's a kind of praise. So too is yada. Yada is to say, like, Adonai, like me, Keloheinu, who is like our God, me, Kadonenu, who is like our Lord. He did this, he did that. Like you're giving a testimony of what he's done for our people, or even for yourself. That's yada. That's yada. Oh man, that sounds like a bad fight. Lord, please let those cats have shalom. So some people, they just translate it as praise, but we lose something in the English, right? So we can say praise, but I want you to understand that yada is a specific kind of praise. It's a confession. Who will confess you, right? Right, meaning talking about your mighty deeds, that sort of thing. And then lakh, usually this would be lekha, because it's the last word in the verse, it gets some extra oomph, and so the became a lakh. Okay. Hey, great. We must have a minyan. Keep on coming in, people. Although it's kind of a short psalm. We'll see. We'll see if they make it. All right, continuing. So this is now verse 7. They will go to the middle. All right. Yagati. So yaga, yod gimel ayin, means to get tired, to grow weary, right? That sort of thing. Brenda says maybe an exaltation or proclamation. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that would work. Absolutely. That's probably better than praise. Good suggestion. Okay. Ba'anchati. So an anacha is a groaning, a sighing, right? He's sick. The psalmist is sick. He's hoping Hashem will hear him. All right? Now he's going to express his condition. Aschei v'chol laila. So sacha is like it's like to swim, right? Like I'm swimming b'chol laila, and all the night, right? Or it could mean like I'm drenched, something like this. I'm swimming all the night. Mitati, my bed, right? Okay, so the idea is in my bed. But dim'ati, dim'ah, not the Russian name Dima. Yes, тебя зовут Дима, мы не говорим о вас. Okay, Dima means tear, right? In Russian, it's like smoke or something. But bed dimati, with my tears. Okay, so he's being so Middle Eastern here. The exaggeration. All night long, I'm swimming in my bed. Okay. Oh yeah, no problem, Brenda. I am the king of typos, so not on a normal keyboard. Normal keyboard I rock, but on a mobile device, oh, it's so frustrating. I'm with you. Especially if you try to type something in Hebrew with English letters, it's going to autocorrect it, sometimes to something embarrassing even. So no problem. Bedimati, with my tears or in my tears, arsi, my divan, my couch, amse is, this can mean a lot of things. It can mean it's dissolving. It's dissolving because of my tears, right? So such a beautiful example of Middle Eastern exaggeration. If you've ever visited an Arab land or in Israel, and someone's telling you a story, you're going to get sometimes this kind of exaggerative thing. Right? Verse Chait, asisa mikaas aini. Okay, so let's start with aini. Aini, you probably know ayin. Ayin is an eye, right? An eye. In Paleo Hebrew, it's a circle. The older Phoenician script, it's a circle. The letter ayin, because it was an eye originally, right? Now we use the Aramaic script, right? So, by the way, let me just segue for a second. Don't get taken in by the Paleo script as having some kind of additional meaning to the word, what the picture used to mean. It's just ludicrous. English letters also used to be pictures of things, okay? The prophets did not choose words based on what the Phoenician pagan script happened to be a picture of, okay? It's not somehow like better, right? We adopted Aramaic script because it was, Israelis did not invent ancient Hebrew, the script, okay? We didn't invent it. The Phoenicians did, all right? That's a different people who are not monotheists. We saw that alphabet, we liked it, we used it, it works, okay? We did not invent this alphabet that you see, the Aramaic script. This came from Babylon, from that area. And we took it from the further east, all right? We used their alphabet, okay? This would work better. If we had been in captivity somewhere else and they had a better one, we might have used not their language, their alphabet, right? Because Semitic alphabet, it represents better. So this is the Aramaic script that you see in Torah scrolls today and all this stuff. But there's some teachers out there, they try to teach that like the pictographs somehow matter, right? This is just ludicrous. It does not. We only have 22 letters in Hebrew. How could it possibly matter what the picture was of? If you want to write the word rosh, which means head, you have no choices. You must use resh, you must use aleph, and you must use sheen, because none of the other letters made those noises, you see? It's not like, let me pick the one that has like, let me pick the resh, because that was a head, and we're talking about a head. No. But when people explain these things, they'll take like the word Yeshua. Oh, look, and there's a nail in the middle, and it's like because of the... No. It's not true. It's not scholarly. It's ridiculous. And I can tell you because I know languages that do work this way. I'm a student of Middle Egyptian, which is like the hieroglyphs and stuff, right? At least I was. I've been slacking for the last couple of years. But in that language, you have thousands of pictographs, okay? And you can spell a word with other than the standard. There's multiple signs that are used in kind of an alphabetic form. You have a monosyllable, a disyllable, and a trisyllable word, where like you draw a picture like a scarab, and that can be 3 letters, ch, p, and And any word that has those letters, whatever the vowels, you can use it in there, right? And then you can build like that, right? So this is how Egyptian is. Or you can just use the first letter of the word, right? This is called the rebus principle, right? So they can do this. So if I wanted to show that I don't like you, I could write your name with mostly snakes and bugs and alligators, right? Okay. Or I could write it with flowers and sunshine. And, there's in Egyptian, you could do that in ancient Egyptian, right? The hieroglyphs. Okay. In Hebrew, you cannot. There's 22 letters. We don't have thousands of letters. You understand? You don't get to choose. But when people explain it, it sounds like it's a real thing. Like, shulchan, table, it's built with a sheen. And sheen in Paleo Hebrew, it's a pair of teeth. And you eat on the table. So you can always wheel and deal and spin it and make it sound like there's some theology there. But in reality, it's just not true. And I used to try to explain this to people, and then thank God some heavy hitters came on the scene and started explaining also. We have Dr. Michael Heiser and Messianic Jewish scholar Dr. Michael Brown. They both talk about this. They call it soothsaying, right? It's just, don't get sucked into that trap, guys. If you're studying Hebrew, don't get into the Paleo Hebrew means something. I know there's a guy out there, Brenner, who was an Italian language professor, and he pushes this stuff, and he makes a living off of it, selling the picture books and stuff, and whatever. God be with him, okay? But I'm just telling you, no scholar in the world thinks that this is legitimate, all right? It just doesn't work. There's only 22 letters. There's no choice to be made in how to draw the picture, you understand? We didn't invent the Paleo Hebrew. The Phoenicians did. We just used their alphabet. It already existed. We just needed something to put the sounds down, to put the words down, you see? And if you need to make a sh, there's only one choice. If you want to make a d, there's only one choice. If you want to make a ol, there's only one choice. We're not choosing, which one expresses power, or so all that stuff is soothsaying. It's ridiculous. So just there it is. You've been warned. Don't waste your time. Better to spend your time studying actual biblical Hebrew, learning the grammar, learning the vocabulary. Okay, I'm saying this for your own sake. If that stuff now, learning the alphabet can be useful if it's a mnemonic, if it helps you to remember words, okay? But there is no bearing at all in that the rosh is a picture of a head, and so it's about headship. Any word that has a rosh in it, no, okay? Or rish, depends on how they pronounce the Paleo Hebrew. All right, that's that. Sorry for the sidebar there. Okay, continuing on verse 8. So this is verse 8. Ashesha mikaas eini. So my eye, Ashesha, is wasting away. Although some say this means it's cloudy, it's become cloudy, right? So there is couple different ways. Halot gives both of those definitions. So it could be wasting away, could be became cloudy, like hard to see, right? Mikaas, from vexation, right? From suffering, right? Atika, okay, has grown old. It has grown old. Bechol tzororai. So bait over there. I'll go back over here, I guess. Let's go middle. Okay. This bait can mean from. So in old Hebrew like this, you probably didn't learn this when you learned bait, that it can mean from, right? Most people, they learn that bait can mean in, with, against, like usually like those things, right? But it's been really proven from the discoveries that Ugarit, the lost city-state of Ugarit, that an Ugaritic be can mean from, and because they don't have mem for from, they use be instead, right? And even lamed can mean from, and so we find out that these Hebrew poets who expressed in the older Hebrew style, they also use it to mean from. So, and it makes sense. My eye has grown old, eni ataka bechol, from all of tzororai, my tzorers, my adversaries. Okay. Now, there is a deeper way to translate this. If we really lean heavily on Ugaritic, it is possible this is related to tzoreret, which is like an inner organ, so meaning the heart, right? So it could be about like my heart, right? So he's having troubles with his heart as well. That is another way to interpret it, right? But let's just go with the more acceptable Hebrew way, yeah? Straight Hebrew way, okay? Okay, let me move my book up a bit. Okay, great. Continuing on. Any comments or questions over there? Okay, we're good. Please remember to click like if you liked it. So here we are on verse Yod. So that's 10. Oh, I'm sorry, not Yod yet. Tet. Verse Tet, that's 9. Suru mimeni. Turn away mimeni, from me. Kol po'elei avin. All doers of avin, lawlessness. Okay. Ki shama Adonai kol bichyi. Because Adonai has heard the sound of bichyi, my crying. Right? Verse 10. Shema Adonai techinati. Adonai has heard techina. No, it's not a food, not techini. Techina is a request. So Shema Adonai techinati. Adonai has heard my techina. Adonai tefilati. Tefillah is a prayer. The T means mine. So Adonai tefilati, my prayer. Now here's where it gets interesting. Yikach. So yikach usually would mean is from lakh, is taking, is accepting, or will take, will accept, right? But here I want you to see how time works in poetry sometimes. This word is perfect, Shema, which usually we put in past tense. This word is imperfect, which usually we put in future tense. So this would just confuse the heck out of a secular Israeli. All right, so don't always be jealous of Israelis. A lot of times Israelis who grew up on kibbutzes, and they're raised like socialists and not really religious, they don't understand this language at all. It's very confusing. It looks like it says, Adonai heard my request. Adonai will accept my prayer. That's not what it says. Okay, not what it says. Yeah, Christopher says my plea. Yes, that's right. So Adonai has heard my request. Adonai, my prayer, he has accepted. You see? Okay. It's past. It's past. All right. Continuing on. We move the book a bit. Oops, okay. Yevoshu. Yibahalu me'od. Kol. And then we're going to have to go to the next page. Okay. So Yevoshu means, may they be embarrassed. May they be ashamed. V'yibahalu me'od. And may they be frightened. Now, those of you advanced Hebrew students, you might be like, why is it passive, frightened? You see the dagesh in the bait? The ancient Hebrew form, the pre-biblical form for this was yin. Yin bahalu. Okay? There was a nun in front of it. It was niphal, right? Or the verbal stem, Christian grammars would call it, right? We would call it, in Jewish grammars, we call it the niphal binyan, right? It's a passive, right? Meaning the subject is having the verb act on them. They were terrified, okay? Yi bahalu means they will be terrified. Yi bahalu means they were terrified or they are terrified. Me'od, right? So, especially here with this imperfect, setting the stage. So, may they be embarrassed and may they be terrified. Me'od, exceedingly. Kol, all or everyone. And then we're going to come to the next. We're going to go to the next page. Okay, hold on, let me work. Almost done. This is the last part of the psalm. Maybe I'll zoom in a bit. Kol, from the previous page, oivai. All of my oyev. Oyev is an enemy. Oivi would mean my enemy singular. Oivai is plural. You got that? All of my enemies, plural. Okay. Yashuvu. May they return. Yevoshu. May they be embarrassed or humbled. Right? They're no longer so high and mighty as they were before. Yevoshu. Raga. Okay, so what's up with raga? Raga is a bit difficult to decipher. So probably it's rega, and we have, because it's the last word, it gets a strong oomph, and the vowel lengthens to comments, right? So probably it was rega, which means in a moment, like instantly. That's fine. You can translate it that way. Now, Mitchell Daoud makes an interesting point. He says that this verb raga, as I don't know if I shared this psalm with you guys, but we have another psalm where it says raga, and the Septuagint translates that as destroyed, right? Or destruction, right? Something like this. And so Mitchell Daoud says that he thinks there's a verb, raga, right? Not, or it could be ragea. Really, we don't know the pronunciation. An example is in Psalm 30, verse 6, okay? That means to destroy or to annihilate. So this could mean, my enemies, yashuvu, may they return, yevoshu, may they be humbled in rega, perdition, right? May the king's enemies be humbled in perdition, right? In the underworld, in the place that you don't want to go, in what Ugaritic is called the arts, the netherworld, something like that. And that concludes it for Psalm 7. Psalm 6. Do you guys have any comments or questions? Okay turnout, considering last minute announcement. And it's a little bit late, so a lot of our Asian friends are asleep already. Way to go, Christopher, staying up. And Vicky, I know Vicky, you usually stay up anyway, right? I think that's all we have from Asia over here, just you guys, right? Okay, so please make sure to give it a thumbs up if you guys liked it. Maybe what I'll do, I'm just going to read through the psalm one more time. All right? This time without translation, just so you can feel the psalm. Is that okay with you guys? And then we'll end. Yeah? Let me see if there's any comments real quick. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. This will be a bit faster. Don't feel bad if you have trouble keeping up, but it's just to kind of give you a feel of really what the psalm should sound like. All right. Okay, I can't. Yeah, I'll just use my little pointer. למצח בנגינות על השמינית מזמור לדוד. Maybe I'll turn myself off. Adonai, al be'apecha tokhicheni, ve'al b'chamatcha tiyasareni, choneni Adonai, ki umlal ani refa'eni Adonai, ki nivhalu atzamai. ונפשי נבהלה מאוד, ואתה, אדוני, עד מתי? שובה, אדוני, חלצה נפשי, הושיעני למען חסדך, כי אין במוות זכרך, בשאול מי יודע לך, יגעתי באנחתי, אסחי וכל לילה, מיתתי, בדמעתי עשי עמסי, עששה מכעס עיני, עתקה בכל צוררי, סורו ממני כל פועלי אבן, כי שמע אדוני כל בכיי. שמע אדוני תחינתי, אדוני תפילתי ייקח, יבושו ויבהלו מאוד כל אויבי, ישובו, יבושו רגע. All right, guys. You guys have a great evening. Thank you for coming in. Please make sure to click that like button if you did indeed like what I was doing. And I will wish you guys a pleasant evening or morning, whatever the case may be. Shalom, shalom. Remember, you can get our reading plan at https://t, the letter T, like telegram.me, like me, / all one word, Messianic Chat. That's t.me/Messianic Chat. We have our free yearly reading program, and this is just from the Psalm reading for today. We're still in Joshua as well, right? So we have the Psalms, I think, is the difficult part that we have every day. So that's why I'm sharing that with you guys to help you get through it, okay? No, I don't have a yod pointer. Yeah, sorry. I'd like to get one. This is a stylus, just a stylus. All right.